first, I want to talk about, like Sean started to, the content management systems. There are so many options, and there are so many best for the end user, best for the content editor. Like how do you, I'm going to put out a hypothetical. Let's assume that Craft did not exist, even though, please, universe, don't let
God
that
forbid.
happen. We all like Craft.
Yeah.
But Sean, Mike, if Craft didn't exist, what would you do to pick a new CMS?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I want Mike to go first.
Okay, well, that's, and like you said, there are a whole bunch of different things to consider in making that decision. There's like how flexible is it for me to develop the site? How user friendly is it for admins to manage the site later? There's like longevity of like, is it, are they going to go bankrupt tomorrow? That whole thing that clients sometimes worry about.
Yeah.
Plugin ecosystem. Is there a lot of extendability, whatever the word is, to like make it more than it already is? All that kind of stuff is something to be considered. And, I find, Sean, just before you answer that question, I find one of the things I'm constantly getting trapped into is once I find a CMS I like, I use it all the time. It used to be Expression Engine. I used it for years, as you all did as well. And that was the only CMS I would ever use. Then I moved to Craft and I started realizing, there's all these other CMSs, Statamic and stuff like that. And now I just find I use Craft pretty much all the time. And I worry that should I be branching out more or, anyway, I'd like to know your thoughts on that. But Sean, first, how do you evaluate a CMS if Craft didn't exist?
I am going to respond to your thing at the end of my bit. How would I respond, or what would I look for is, number one is community. I want a good developer community. That's more important to me than anything else.
Agreed.
Because I want to be able to talk to somebody best practices. I want to know that the CMS is going to continue to exist and grow and people care about it. A non-toxic community. So Craft CMS is probably the best online community that I have ever been in.
Craft doesn't
exist.
Craft doesn't exist.
In this world.
But my point is, I don't know another one that is quite as good as that. Okay, so community, very, very important. Second, documentation.
Documentation, yeah. Right.
Documentation is really important. I think Craft docs are good, but they're not great. There's better documentation out there. So that's their only weakness in my opinion. And as Mike said, I want to have extensibility, whether it's plugins, modules, or things like that. And finally, author experience, so that my clients can enjoy using it. There's no point in building them a website with a CMS if they don't enjoy or find it easy to update their content.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and to address Mike's point at the end about only using one CMS.
Yeah.
I too am like that. It was Expression Engine, and then I dabbled in Statamic, and then I dabbled in Craft for a while before I finally switched over to Craft. I think as a solo developer, it's very hard to be proficient, let alone an advanced user in more than one CMS. And I just don't have the brain power to keep a working knowledge of two different CMSs in my repertoire. Like I worked on an Expression Engine site earlier this summer. Yeah, I'm familiar with all of their concepts, but I haven't worked on EE in a few years. So I had to reference the docs and things like that. I was unfamiliar with some of the plugins that were in use or the best practices or what's popular or what's not. So there was a lot more work for me to do because I'm not familiar with it. I think for an agency, if you've got a developer team, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 developers, you could specialize in 2 different CMSs for targeting 2 different types of clients. Maybe a smaller client and one that needs a more bespoke options. So that's my thoughts on it. Amanda, what do you think about that?
Everything that both of you have already said, I absolutely agree with. Security as well. It needs
100%.
needs to be secure, even if it's like, and every CMS does their best with security. Obviously, nobody wants anything to ever be hacked. And I always think that it comes back to making sure that the client is reassured that even if it's only a website for, the mom and pop shop around the corner and it's just a little brochure site, for some reason, security is like always top and foremost in their mind as well. So I think that having a well-established CMS that has, I prefer one that's been around the block, that's been around, that has like the good community group and good people working on it. But I also think that it's easier to see if they've had any security issues. So I'm not saying that I would never check out like a brand new development, but I probably would feel more comfortable with something that's been around for a while.